The Zalthar had been so certain of their victory. Cooper stood in the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel, watching the massive bioengineering facility drift past the viewport. Its metallic surface was scarred and pitted from the war that had ended 3 years ago, a war the galaxy had been certain humanity would lose. "Hard to believe they created thousands of these things just to kill us," Ava said, stepping beside him. Her reflection in the glass showed the same haunted expression Cooper felt whenever he thought about those dark days. The things she referred to were the Rexlings, genetically engineered apex predators designed by the Zalthar Collective with a single purpose: hunt humans to extinction. Each creature stood nearly 2 meters tall, possessed retractable claws that could shred titanium, had a bite force that exceeded Earth's ancient Tyrannosaurus Rex, and harbored an instinctive biological hatred for human pheromones. Or at least, that's what they were supposed to do. "The delegation from the Galactic Council is waiting in Conference Room 7, Ava reminded him, adjusting her uniform. As humanity's ambassador to the Council, she'd spent the last 3 years explaining the inexplicable to dozens of alien species who still couldn't comprehend what had happened. Cooper nodded, tearing his gaze from the facility. "Let's get this over with." The conference room buzzed with a dozen different atmospheric regulators, each adjusted for the various species present. The Zalthar representative, a being called Kexthor, stood at the far end, his chitinous frame rigid with what Cooper had learned to recognize as profound confusion. "Ambassador Ava," Kexthor clicked through his translator, "we have reviewed your reports multiple times, and still, we cannot comprehend your species' response to our biological weapons." Ava took her seat calmly. Cooper remained standing behind her, his hand resting on a datapad that contained thousands of images and videos, evidence of humanity's response. "Which part confuses you specifically?" Ava asked, her tone diplomatic but tinged with amusement. "All of it!" Another council member, a gaseous being from the Nebula colonies, swirled with agitation. "The Rexlings were programmed at the genetic level to despise humans. They were engineered to hunt you across planets, to never stop until every last human was eliminated. And yet we kept them," Ava finished. "Yes." Kexthor's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Not just kept them, Ambassador. According to our intelligence, there are currently over 40 million Rexlings living on Earth and human colonies. You have bred them, domesticated them. There are entire industries devoted to their care and feeding." Cooper couldn't help the smile that crept across his face. He activated the datapad, and holographic images filled the center of the conference table. A Rexling, sleek, dangerous, with obsidian scales that reflected light like oil on water, sat in a sunny garden. A human child, no more than 5 years old, had her arms wrapped around its muscular neck. The creature's mouth was open in what evolutionary biologists had identified as the Rexling equivalent of a smile. Its tail wagged. "This is Destroyer of Worlds," Cooper said, zooming in on the image. "At least, that's what his original Zalthar designation translates to. His human family calls him Moose. He sleeps at the foot of their daughter's bed every night." More images appeared. Rexlings wearing colorful collars. Rexlings playing fetch with enthusiastic humans. Rexlings participating in agility competitions. One particularly large specimen wore a vest labeled Emotional Support Animal and sat patiently in what appeared to be a hospital waiting room. "This is illogical," Kexthor insisted. "The genetic programming was absolute. How did you override it?" Ava leaned forward. "We didn't override anything. That's what you don't understand. The Rexlings still have every instinct you programmed into them. They still react to human pheromones exactly as designed." "Then how?" "Because you made a fundamental error in understanding humans," Cooper interrupted, his voice carrying an edge. "You studied our history, our wars, our violence. You saw how we fought each other and assumed you understood us. But you missed the most important thing. He swiped through more images. Humans throughout history, surrounded by creatures that should have been their predators. Wolves transformed into dogs over thousands of years. Great cats kept as companions. Bears, once hunted and feared, now protected in sanctuaries. Even creatures from Earth's deadliest ecosystems, sharks, snakes, spiders, cared for and studied with fascination rather than fear. We have a saying on Earth, Ava said softly. If it exists, humans will try to pet it. But the Rexlings were programmed to hate you, the Nebula representative pulsed. No, Cooper corrected. They were programmed to be hyper-aware of us, to focus on us entirely, to be obsessed with human presence. He pulled up a scientific report. Your engineers made them biologically compelled to seek out humans, to never lose interest in us, to form an unbreakable focus on our species. Understanding began to dawn across the various alien faces around the table. You created the perfect bonding mechanism, Ava explained. Every Rexling that encountered a human did exactly what you designed. They fixated completely on us. But evolution is funny. Aggression and play behavior, they use the same neural pathways, hunting instincts and protective instincts, separated by context and conditioning. You gave us creatures that were biologically incapable of ignoring humans, incapable of not caring about us. And we, Cooper said, are a species that has spent 50,000 years turning things that want to kill us into things that sleep in our beds. He showed them the footage that had gone viral across human networks during the war. The first Rexling captured by human forces, snarling and snapping in its containment field. Then a soldier, exhausted, traumatized, far from home, had sat down near the cage and simply started talking. About his family, about his dog back on Earth, about how scared he was. The Rexling had stopped snarling. It had tilted its massive head, and then, in a moment that changed the entire trajectory of the war, it had pressed against the bars of the cage and made a sound no one had ever heard a Rexling make before. It had purred. Within 6 months of that video spreading, we had Rexlings defecting from Zalthar forces, Ava said. They were choosing humans over their creators. Your own biological weapons were deserting to join the species they were meant to destroy. Kexthor's entire body seemed to sag. We spent decades on this project. Billions of credits. Our finest geneticists. You made them perfect, Cooper agreed. Perfect for us, just not in the way you intended. The conference room fell silent except for the hum of environmental systems. Finally, the Nebula representative spoke, their gaseous form shimmering with what might have been amusement. So the humans won the war because they adopted the enemy's weapons? Ava smiled. We won the war because we're really, really good at making friends with things that probably shouldn't be our friends. It's kind of our specialty. Cooper added one final image to the display. It showed Ava herself, sitting in her apartment on Earth, her own Rexling, a battle-scarred veteran named Princess Fluffybottom, curled up on the couch beside her, its massive head resting in her lap. The Zalthar tried to create humanity's perfect predator, Cooper said. What they actually created was humanity's perfect companion. Kexthor made a sound that the translator couldn't quite process, something between a sigh and a chittering laugh. Your species is absolutely insane. Yeah, Ava agreed cheerfully, but we're insane in a way that makes good pets out of bioweapons, so it works out. As the meeting adjourned and the various species filed out, still muttering in disbelief, Cooper caught Ava's eye. They shared a knowing look, the look of two humans who understood that in a galaxy full of logical, calculating species, humanity's greatest strength had always been their completely illogical capacity for affection. Even the Zalthar's perfect killing machines hadn't stood a chance against that.